Hello guys, just want to give you a little heads up on the assignment. What I've done is I've put together a slide, as you can see. I'll post this on the web. And what I've done is I'll go through the instructions very quickly, talk about accessing standards, just in case you haven't done it. Hopefully you have done it. Talk a little bit about the tender, give you some examples, where we get financing information, contract information, quality and safety. So these are all the elements of the assignment. Now what's going to happen is when I post this slide on the web, these links are not going to work because they're to points on my hard drive. So you'll need to set up your own. In any case, what you can do is you can download from Moodle definition of the assignment. This is almost identical to what was contained in the course overview. What I've done is I've just added something around the size of the assignment and referencing criteria, and also an assessment criteria to give you a little bit more of a heads up of exactly what I'm looking for. So instructions are contained in this first section, and really what you've got to do is you've got to cover 10 areas there: the context of the project, the justification, the financing, the conditions, the team, the expected estimates, how you're going to handle project changes, quality assurance, document management, governance, disputes, and safety issues. Now the assignment itself, I'm not expecting to be huge, although there is no word limit. You can make it as large as you like, but I'm not expecting it to be huge. Reason being is that many of the areas of the assignment actually come from various standards. So if you look at the assessment criteria, you can see that there's criteria around AS 4120, there's criteria around financing, there's criteria around contractual terms, there's criteria around quality assurance and quality control, and criteria around safety. Each of those is covered by a standard. Now, if what you want to do is you want to keep the size of your tender down, now of course if you're copying a template from your workplace, then it might not be consistently identical to what I've laid out down here. But if, for example, you want to talk about closing tenders, in other words, what I've identified as section 1.3.1.9, closing tenders, all you need to do is you need to say closing tenders, tender closing will conform to Australian Standard 4120, 1994, section 6.4, page 9. So within that standard, then all the text that exists in that section is what you're going to be referring to. So that means that you don't have to put a whole lot of words in your standard. So all I'm looking for is really to be able to go through and to say in the assignment, have you covered this aspect? Have you covered that aspect? Have you covered all the various parts that the standard says should be included within a tender? So if you have, then what you're going to go and get is you're going to get 100% of the marks, and so life is going to be pretty easy for you. Okay, now just to give you a little bit of a heads up, if you haven't gone into Moodle, then one of the things, and looked at the standards, so one of the things that you need to do is you need to go and make sure you can locate those standards. So if you just type in CQU library to Google and click on the databases option, then what will happen is that the option will come up. I'll go and zoom this up, make it a little bit bigger for you, and you'll see down on the right hand side down here, he goes and says Standards Australia. Click on that. It'll take a little bit of time to log in because it's got to go in, access it through the CQU library, and then all you've got to do is type in the standard itself. 41, what are we looking at? Let me just skip back. 4120 was what I said, so 4120, type in search, and what will happen is that the standard will be displayed for you, and all you've got to do is just download it. Okay, now 4120 is a standard around the tendering. With this standard, what you need to do is what I'll do is I'll just zoom it down so we can see all of it. What you've got to do is you basically got to follow this standard. You'll find that many standards on the internet follow this standard. When I say standards on the internet, most people post their standards on the internet these days. It consists of a number of sections. It's not terribly big, it's only 14 pages long, so it's a pretty easy standard to be able to go and follow. And all you've got to do is you've got to just kind of read this. I advise you to read this as well in the context of the course and in the context not only of this assignment but also making sure you know the stuff for the exam. So have a little read of that, and really what we're doing is we're reflecting all of the required parts of that standard. Now, associated with that standard, AS 43 1 is actually a template in order to be able to write a standard to go and put it together. It just kind of gives you a little bit of something that you would fill out. I mean, possibly you fill it out by hand. I don't think many people, if anybody, would actually use this standard, but nevertheless it exists on the website if you actually want to know what is the format that you need to be able to follow. As I say, you don't actually have to follow that. Now, if you go on the internet, one of the things that you'll find that there are lots of standards available. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Queensland Government procurement website. What you can see is you need to go and have a login for this. If you click on current standards, then what you can do is you can actually see a list of all the various standards that have been issued by various organisations that subscribe to this within Queensland. So what I might do is I might go and have a little look at one of these. Let's have a look. What I want to do is I want to find one that yes, I happen to know was will I think this is a 1RT. Yep. I'll click on this one by Mackay Council. It wasn't actually the one that I was looking at, thinking of, but what you can do is you can click on the standard, and you should be able to. Oh, it's not on the standard, on the tender, and what you should be able to do is you should be able to go in, see that. You'll see an RFT. It'll list what the tender is all about, all the various parts of the tender. And as you can see, it kind of looks a little bit like with many of the sections from the standards that we would have been looking at, and you can use, if you want to use this as your template, then you can use that as your template. One of the things you'll see that what they've done is they've included the Australian standard related to contracts, minor work conditions. They've made amendments to that standard, but they show you how they've put it together. They actually show you a lot of amendments. This frequently happens with various organisations, is they might change bits of, but they've based it on the particular standard itself. Okay, so you can see examples of that. There's another one that I downloaded previously around recycling. You can see again it was from Mackay Council. I look at some of their tenders to see what they're doing along with other councils within Central Queensland. As you can see, they've also included the Australian standard within their tender for the contract. Okay, so As far as tendering is concerned, then you put together, as I say, it's not going to be a terribly big document, but nevertheless you put it together for us. Okay, so again, going back to the criteria, then these are the various sections that you need to be able to go and focus on. Make sure you cover all of those. So what we've done is we've had a little look at the sections around AS 4120. We need to also know areas around the financing, and we need to know areas around the contracting and the quality and the safety. So we just have a little look at those. Financial justification comes from the textbook that I pointed you to on the web, the Hermansen, Edwards and Ivanovic textbook. If you jump to, I was wanting to look at chapter 26, I think that's on page 276 in the copy that I've got here. It tells you about capital budget, long-range planning, and really what you've got to do is you've got to go and say how you're going to finance this project, so the tenderers, the people responding to your tender, are going to know that you've got the money and you've done it in the right way. So the textbook goes and defines capital budgeting, gives you a definition of them. Project selection talks about the inflows, asset acquisition, depreciation, taxes, asset replacement, out-of-pocket expenses, cost of capital, and then talks about certain ways that you can go and assess projects, such as a payback period, what the payback period is, the unadjusted rate of returns, and the net present value method of selecting projects, a profitability index method of selecting projects. So what I'm looking for you to be able to do is to be able to just say something about these criteria. It doesn't have to be too long. Again, if you want to go and point to the textbook and use that as your reference, then I'm quite happy for you to be able to go and do that. Important thing as well, and as you saw from those Mackay Council tenders, they've included the contract standard as part of the tender. There's a number of contract standards that I've referenced during the course. One of them, AS 4000 1997, is perhaps the most comprehensive of the standards. It's around the general condition of contract. It's quite long, it's 78 pages long, but you'd find lots of information within that particular standard. One of the things I should point out to you is, even though this is AS 4000 1997, in other words that's when it was first published, you can see that there's been updates, and so this is actually inclusive of the first three amendments, last amendment being 2005. And you'll probably find that in the fullness of time there's a Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, and if those amendments make things too substantial, then what will happen is that the whole standard will be updated and it'll be given a different number. So all the sections that you can think in terms of related to the contract, various pages within the contract refer to that. Again, if I go back to the criteria, then what you'll do is you'll see that I reckon that these areas here are probably the minimum, or certainly the minimum, but the mandatory parts that you need to be able to cover in terms of when you issue the tender. These are things that the respondees to the tender, the tenderers, will be interested in. Okay, moving on, out of interest, and I pointed this out to you, is besides the standard AS 4000, I pointed out to you on the Moodle website, there is a administration manual for AS 4000. And so HB stands for Handbook 140, published in the year 2000, is an administration manual which goes and covers the AS 4000 contract. Now, I'm not expecting you to print this out because this administration manual is 650 pages long. But basically what it does is it goes and tells people how they should go around administering an AS4000 contract. So if you're a large organization, which we're imagining that in this course we're involved in large asset owners, then being able to go and administer contracts is extremely important. And so having a good understanding of all the parts of the contract and what's required to administer it is extremely important. So this standard goes in, focuses on, and tells you how to go and do that. I beg your pardon, hang on, I'm just need to skip back a little bit. I went and screwed that up. Let's jump back. There we are. Okay, so in terms of quality, ISO, the ISO stands for the International Standards Organization, but AS, Australian Standard, New Zealand Standard, and ISO Standard 9004, 2001 goes and gives you a lot of concept around quality, the quality management approach. Again, include this stuff within your tender, because what you want to do is you want to make sure that people are conforming to quality standards and acceptable quality rules. So this is quite a good standard. It goes and gives you a lot of words, but also this standard goes and gives you various diagrams and overall structure of how various things work, a number of tables of what's acceptable within quality and things like that. Another quality standard is AS/ISO 10014, which actually goes and gives you guidelines for realizing financial and economic benefits. Again, if in our kind of environment, one of the things that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to have an appreciation of all of these standards, because as large asset owners, then what we've got to do is we've got to go and concentrate on meeting these criteria. Our organizations want us to go and utilize best practice, and the standards are the best practice that we have around, and we need to be able to conform to them. So having a familiarization is important. So customer focus, leadership, involvement of people, process approach, continuous improvement, systems approach, so on and so forth, is all important to us. Finally, the last area that we need to be able to go and focus on is a little bit of the quality area. So current quality guidelines is around ASNZS 48,004, beg your pardon, 2001. There are a couple of standards here. There's 4804 and there's 4801. 4804 is the larger standard. 4801 is a subset of 4804. So you may find that there's a couple of those around to be able to look at. And what this does is it goes and talks about safety, the need for safety, what the principles are, what the elements are, how you plan for it, how you implement it, how you measure it, and how you review it. Another standard that in this area, which is quite useful, a little bit old, in 1996, but was AS 1470. This standard is longer than the previous one, and what it does is it lays things down perhaps in more detail. It kind of expands out and provides a bit of a foundation for us that we can go and think of. As you can see, there are more sections and there are perhaps more detail within those sections. So in other words, what I'm saying to you is that in order to go and fulfill this assignment, all you've got to do is you've got to go and look at the sources. All of the answers that you need are contained within these sources, and the instructions associated with what you need to do is contained within the assignment instructions and grading criteria that I've put up on the website. So just go into Moodle, scroll down to this week, and what you'll do is you'll find that I've put this up. You might already have seen it because I've posted it on previous weeks as well, just to go and give you some heads up. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Hopefully you find that okay. And if you've got any kind of questions, then feel free to go and contact me, and I'm only too happy to hear from you anytime. Thanks very much.